Howdy folks, today we're going to be caulking and resealing a bathtub. A pretty standard household maintenance item. It's very easy to do, but it's also easy to do incorrectly. I'm going to show you a couple pro tips in order to you can have a successful project and something that every house needs done occasionally. Before we get started, I'd like to go over the materials you're going to need for this job. You're going to need some silicone caulking, silicone and latex-based caulking. They're both the same color, but two different products. Silicone is between tile and tub. You cannot paint silicone. That's important to keep in mind, depending on where you're going to use it. A latex-based caulking, if you read the tubes, it will say paintable or unpaintable. Why is that important? Because a latex-based sealant you will use on a painted area between the tub and the wall, or backs of sinks where it's going to be hitting a painted surface, that type of thing. This is good. This is a better sealant than this. However, again, it can't be painted, and that'll be a big mess, because if you go try to paint silicone afterwards, it's going to look nasty and it won't work. With that, of course, you'll need a caulking gun. I go ahead and spend the extra little bit of money to get a caulking gun that's got a little cutter on it that'll cut the end of your tubes, which we will see later. And this little prong here, which again you'll see the purpose for later. And that's nice to have on your caulking gun. A scraper with a razor blade. A couple latex gloves. Acetone, what's that for? I'll show you later. And some masonry trowels for a different job, which you don't need. Got this little scraper here for $1.50. Just comes with the replaceable razor blades. 2 to 3 razor blades should do this whole job. But in order to do it, what I'm going to want to do is you can still scratch tiles and tubs with this. So you want to make sure you keep, just like you're shaving your face, keep it flat to the surface that you're scraping down on, and flat up underneath. So I'm going to try to mechanically take off every bit of caulking I can first before I use the acetone to chemically remove the rest. So it's best to use this, and again, take your time, be patient, and try to get off every little bit that you can. I've also called into service a regular utility knife. When you get deep in the corners here, just take this little blade and just, after you've scraped it and separated it from the top and sides, run this guy down the middle. A lot of times it'll help you get the big chunks, because you want to get it completely out, all the old bunkus that was in there, and also around the taps and faucets and whatsits. Break it loose from the sides. You get all that junk out of there. Okay, this part is important. Where it comes when it comes in contact with the wall, you want to take a nice sharp blade and make a good straight line. Otherwise, you will rip the drywall paper, and then you'll be in a world of hurt. So you want a nice straight line on the caulking and the wall before you pull the old caulking out from the tub. And then start pulling this out, and you should have a nice straight line where your knife had cut. So that will keep you from having to repaint, doing all other kinds of nonsense. Alright. This part is ideally what you're looking for when you're removing the old caulking. Alright, at the vertical joints, the tile installer put grout in the corners. There's two schools of thought on this. This grout did hold up quite well, but I typically don't want grout in the corners. I'd prefer to seal it with silicone, as there's a little bit of movement in the corners there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape down this grout a bit and bring it in again with my scraper as far in as it'll go. Put a little bit of grout in there because it is secure. will be okay and it'll work as a backer for the silicone. Alright, now that I've got all the caulking off there, I want to get all the chunks of stuff out of here. Now that we've removed as much as we can mechanically, the rest we'll be doing chemically with this acetone. A lot of people don't do this step and it might be a bit overkill for some people, but while you're in here, you might as well do it. It's going to clean your grout lines, make them look like new. I keep my scraper handy in case I run into a little spot. Maybe there's some old grout on there or something like that. And you can scrape all your tiles, clean all your corners out real well. And it'll have your tiles and everything looking like new. This stuff does smell like hell, so you're going to want to have a window open. I mean, I like the smell of it because I like to get baked. But yeah, so you're going to want to go ahead and keep the window open, wipe it real well, and yeah, it does wonders for the tile. Alright dudes, well we got it all cleaned up and we're ready to apply our silicone. The one thing I wanted to show you with this caulking gun is you have this little cutter here on the side, this little hole that acts as a scissor. This is an important step. You don't want a huge tip, you want a small tip, so the farther you stick that in there, if I jam it in there all the way, it's going to give me a big tip. But I normally want a little one at a bit of an angle, like this, and you chop it. So that gives you a little cut like that. Alright, and then what this bit does, drop her in there. That breaks the seal between the tip and the canister. And always wipe this little bit off or it gets kind of nasty. Alright. So when you do this, you're going to have this and a rag ready and have it damp. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. You just steady, you just have a firm, you don't just crank it out there. You have firm pressure as you bring it down and the top part of the angle of the cut toward the top part of the angle or upward, whatever, you know what I mean. I like to use my finger. They sell little stupid tools you can use. Those are lame. Okay, as you can see, it's building out over the sides. Some scrubs will leave it that way. But you want to take your rag on your finger and pull it along the side to get off the excess. And the silicone, you don't want to put too much down before you work it because it starts to set up pretty quickly and then it gets hard to work. I'm going to do anywhere there's a corner or an inside corner. The horizontal is pretty much very similar to the vertical. It's a little bit easier actually, but what I wanted to draw attention to is right here. Let me bring it down a little bit. Right here, this is where I want the silicone to stop because I don't want silicone again on a painted surface. So I will start here. Again, try not to do that. Keep the tip clean. You can see the angle of the tip. I want the long end of the cut away from me. And then you get it, and you want to squeeze as much and get a lot, because this is where you're going to have a big area of leakage. Squeeze it in and force it into the crack between the bottom of the tile and the tub. And when you're going, if you can see on the tip, I start to have build up like this. I don't want that because that's going to mess up my bead. Okay, again, where the painted area meets the porcelain, I'm going to use the paintable painter's caulk. Again, very similar process, and my hope is if you do this clean enough, and you have a clean rag and a sponge, you keep the paintable caulking. This is a little bit easier to work, the latex, than the silicone, and also a little bit easier cleanup. But the goal is to do this in a manner that won't require painting in her crevice. Just here, do you want all that caulk? Have all this caulk. Lots of caulk in there. All the little excess bits. Well, that's that, folks. Again, a pretty straightforward operation. It's not incredibly difficult. On a scale of 1 to difficult, I would give it a 3 or 4. It's about technique, about patience. Keep your work area clean, all that. They sell a lot of little stupid things to tool the joints with, but just use your finger. Those things are for assholes. Yeah, so any questions? Post them below. Any criticisms? Write them on a piece of paper. Roll them up into a tube and stick them in your own ass. Anyway, that's how you caulk a tub. Y'all take it easy.